At SCAN, we are always concerned with your mental health and your physical health. And I hope you all realize that your mental health and your physical health are totally related. What's good for one is good for the other. What's not good for one is not good for the other. So we're going to talk about that today because your mind, body, spirit, it's all related. So if you want to know more about this, just stay tuned. Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to SCAN FYI. My guest today is Larry Thompson. He is from Integrated Care Concepts and Consultation, LLC. Long name, Larry, long name. A good name, though. So I'll tell you what, Larry, let's take a moment. Larry, you introduce yourself. Tell us about your role at Integrated Care Concepts, and then we'll get into our conversation.
Sure. Good morning. Good morning. My name is Larry Thompson. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I've been in the field about 30 years. I'm the founding partner of Integrated Care Concepts and Consultation. Exactly what you said, Andre. Our job is trying to help people bring their minds and their bodies together in a more healthy way so that they can have more wellness and more health in their lives. And we do that through a variety of methodologies. We have psychiatry, we have therapy, we have creative art, mind-body approaches, so that people can get all what they need in one location to find their wellness as fast as possible.
So I think you would certainly agree that, your mental health is related to your physical health, and when one is off, probably the other one is off too, right?
Yeah. I mean, our understanding is very simple, right? That the mind is supposed to take care of the body, and the body is supposed to take care of the mind. And actually, the mind follows the body. Do you know that your mind follows your heart rate and blood pressure? That if your heart rate's up, blood pressure's up, your mind's racy, right? So really using the body to quiet the mind so you can live your life on purpose and not by accident, either through emotion or through impulse, really is the goal of this mindfulness-based way of helping people show up the way they want to in their lives and not kind of by accident.
I love that you just said living your life not by accident, but on purpose. Wow, I might have to use that sometime. That's good. No,
Well,
but
I mean,
I would say my observation just from working at SCAN is that so many people are living their lives like accidentally, whatever happens next, not sort of mindfully plotting a course.
yes, yes.
So
So,
let's talk about mindfulness. What
uh,
do, and what do we even mean by that? Because
uh,
I feel like a lot of people don't know well, they've heard the word, they don't know what it means.
yeah, yeah. So, a very simple definition of mindfulness is paying attention to the present moment on purpose, like what you mean to, as if your life depends on it, because it really does, right? How you show up in this moment can really heal where you've been and prepare where you're going, right? With an attitude of affection. I wish that was my definition. It was actually a definition of John Kabat-Zinn, a PhD psychologist who developed mindfulness-based stress reduction in the 70s, right? So this definition has been around a long time. And the idea of just showing up is a form of, yeah. The other way of defining mindfulness is mind training. People hear mindfulness and they think of yoga, they think of meditation, which is all very good, but it's also just basically mind training, right? Imagine your mind is this wonderful wild horse that's just kind of running around the day and needs guidance, it needs care, it needs tenderness to make sure that it moves in one direction under your own instruction, right? And so that takes practice because
Yeah.
the heart pumps blood, right? That's what the heart does. The lung breathes. That's what the lungs do. The mind just secretes thoughts and feelings and emotions, right? It needs us to help guide it so we show up on purpose and not get dragged down any kind of random trail based on some random feeling. So many people have a hard time. The core of mindfulness is being able to pay attention to your thoughts, but not become your thoughts, to pay attention to your feelings, but not become your feelings. Mindfulness is the ability to observe yourself and lead and not have one part of yourself make all your decisions for you.
So I want to say, well, if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. But apparently it's not. So why, we all meet so many people, and some people just, they seem to be so right on course. They, all their ducks are in a row. They're cool, calm, and collected, versus the other kind of person who feels like you see them, they're all over the place. So is it because is there a natural ability for some people that some of us just don't have?
It's a great question. Oh, that's delicious. You're delicious. That's
Oh,
amazing. You're
thank
so
you.
good. So, the real good news, the real good news is what you're proposing, right? When I got in the field 30 years ago, what we knew about brain science is not what we know today,
No, of course
right?
not.
So back then we thought your temperament is your temperament, your brain's your brain. Either you got lucky or you got unlucky.
Oh, okay. You were born that way. Whatever, luck of the
Exactly.
draw. Okay.
And that it's a slow burn to the end. That's what we
Okay.
thought back then. So through the discovery of functional MRI machines and other technologies, we've come to understand how plastic, how bendable, how malleable the brain actually is, and how, like any other organ in our body, the way you use that organ actually changes how that organ functions, right? So, yes, many of us start off with this part of our brain called your prefrontal cortex, your executive functioning, kind of being all like um, stirred up, right? Really um, busy, very, very busy, we'll say, right? And so the actual study they did is they brought in these monks from Tibet and they wired up their brains and they scanned their brains to see, well, are these meditators like, are their brains just like somehow organically different? Like, what's the changes? And they recognized that through practicing
Yeah.
mindfulness,
Yeah.
it changes structures of your brain. This part of your brain, you have cells on the outside of your brain called your insula, and it's your watchtower. It's always scanning your environment for danger. And when it finds danger, whether it be a bear or a medical bill, it triggers this part of your brain. You have two parts called your amygdalas on both sides, like right here. One. So your insula is your watchtower, and it triggers your amygdala, which is your alarm center. And so once that alarm center goes, you have cortisol, adrenaline, and cortisone. The three stress hormones start to get pumped from your adrenal glands into your body, fight, flight, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So these long-term meditators, they had so much more area they developed of their insula. So it took so much more information, discomfortable or scary, for them to get anxious. So these calm people that you talk about, their brains look a little different because it takes much more troubling information before they're troubled, right? And then their
Okay.
amygdalas
Yeah.
are thinner through training in mindfulness, learning how to calm and use the body. It changes the shape of these organs. So when you do get anxious, you don't ring so loud. You don't get so much cortisol because those glands are smaller and thinner than people who are always racing and running and flailing, right? So the good news is that a mindful brain can be anyone's brain, right? It takes practice and training, commitment, right? Um, Neuromuscular efficiency, how my brain talks to my body, can change the shape of my body. Working out, walking,
Yes.
like we know that, right?
Yes.
Neuroplasticity, how I use this organ, how I use the brain, changes the shape of the brain. We did not know that until about 20 years ago. It's newer information. It's great hope, right? Because that means with good workout, all of us can find a way of kind of waking up and seeing things more clearly, more calmly, and more real. The saying we have in my profession, my love, is a clear mind, clear world. Anxious mind, anxious world.
Yeah.
Scared mind,
Well,
scared world.
it makes sense. It does make sense. So you're just like you would go to the gym to develop your body or exercise to develop your body. Now you're describing that we have to do something to develop our mind so that we develop this mindfulness,
So yeah, so
a learned behavior.
exactly. Wellness, happiness, these are not accidents, right? These are skills. Happiness is a skill. Wellness is a skill. It doesn't just happen, right? So putting yourself in a position to grow that is what we're talking about. A distracted mind is not paying enough attention to the body to take care of the body. So sometimes we get ill and stay ill longer because we're not really being present with ourselves. So mindfulness impacts the physical health because you're more present to take care of yourself, and thereby happiness happens more often because you're not suffering. The Buddha said,
Makes sense.
the mind creates life to be suffering, so suffer well. And what he meant by that was not he wanted people to hurt. He said he wants people to learn from their suffering so they make changes that help them. When you're too distracted, when you're not paying attention, when you're all over the place, you're not learning from what's happening to make changes that help you, right? You're on autopilot, right?
Yeah,
So the
yeah.
idea of stopping and connecting helps you take care of your needs and helps you grow happiness on purpose and not wait for it to happen by accident.
So short of, for people listening and they're hearing this and hopefully you are listening and you're getting an understanding of what it means to be mindful and that it's not an accident. You have to cultivate it like anything else. So short of taking, Larry, short of taking a deep dive into therapy, what are some things that people can do
Oh, love,
to
great.
begin to practice, on a daily basis? I get up in the morning and now and I'm, crazy mode. How do I focus?
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. So there's three different qualities of practice. There's intensive practice, formal practice, and informal practice. So intensive practice is planning to go, um, away to a retreat or to a place in nature where you come out of your day-to-day life and you choose to go into a quiet contemplation on purpose more intensely. That's hard to do. That's hard to do for all the reasons why it's hard to do, right? You're talking about formal and informal practice. If I can't go on to a retreat, what can I add to my day that's going
Yeah,
to help me cultivate this oneness? Mindfulness is called oneness of body and mind. We're here together. That's mindfulness, right?
I'm writing this down.
Sure. So oneness of body and mind can be cultivated formally and informally. So formally, can you spend 5 minutes a day in silence, maybe looking outside your window, looking at your backyard? Can you spend 5 minutes maybe on your porch and just notice using all your senses? The fastest, most accessible way to mindfulness is focusing on your physical senses. Every mindful practice uses what's called a sensory anchor, right? The mind's so busy, we want to give the mind something to hold on to quiet itself, right? So, can you spend 5 minutes a day sitting on your porch, closing your eyes, and just letting sound, using your sense of hearing, just bring sound to your mind and just notice sounds arising and falling, nothing to do, nothing to push away, just letting sound to come to you. And a
Listen,
miracle happens, right?
yeah.
The mind cannot hold on to a worry, cannot hold on to a memory, can't hold on to a concern and a physical sensation at the same time. So the mind lets go of the worry and just quiets to the physical sensation. It's a wonderful little bait and switch that God gave us, right? To quiet
Hmm.
the mind from its restless tides of thought to just be present, right? So I challenge my clients, pick a sense every day, a new sense every day. You have five senses, right? So at least 5 days a week. So today I'm going to sit and use my sense of hearing. Today I'm going to sit and use just my sense of sight, which just whatever shows just being present to what I see, right? and rotate that. Start just 5 minutes a day, and build to 20, right? Um, and then on the sixth day, what we encourage people to do is sit for 5 minutes and use all your senses at the same time. Just be open to sound and sight and taste and hearing and feeling. What happens when all your senses hold you? Just and you start noticing how quiet your mind gets. It's a wonderful little way of encountering yourself. And of course, when we first do it, people say, "Oh, it's so hard," because your mind wants to wander. It's so used to, like, we train the mind to be busy, 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 and then we ask it to stop. It takes a little while for it to stop.
Yeah, yeah, good point, actually. We
Right?
do.
So be gentle with
Yeah.
yourself on that. Right? Yeah. And then the informal practice is not adding something to your day, like 5 minutes of mindfulness or yoga or meditation or art therapy class or uh so many people are mindful, have mindful practices already. They just don't think of them that way. Like I have clients who stitch, who cross stitch. I have clients who my doctor, our doctor here, our psychiatrist, crochets. I mean, crocheting. She's just crocheting. She's not thinking about anything else.
Right.
I think that's the other part of mindfulness that is really important to understand. Well, Larry, how do I know I'm being mindful? Like, how do I know what's happening? You know you're being mindful when you're wanting to be mindful. When you know you're trying to be mindful. You know you're mindful when whatever you're doing, you're completely involved in doing it. If I am baking and all I am is baking, I'm smelling the flour, I'm feeling the powder, I'm noticing the dough in my hands. I'm only baking. I'm not 3 days ahead or 3 days
Right.
behind. I'm just doing that. That's also a form of mindfulness, right? I have clients who fish, and when they're fishing, they're just fishing. That's a form of mindfulness. I have clients who surf, and surfing is very mindful because if you're not really
Oh,
paying attention to what you're doing, you're
right.
not on the board very
Right.
long.
You bring up a good point because sometimes when I've done presentations and I've talked about a flow state, and that's exactly what you're describing. You're in the kitchen, you're chopping vegetables, you're knitting, you're totally engaged in something 100%, and it's something you love, and then all of a sudden 4 hours went by. You were totally in the
Yes.
moment. Well, that's mindfulness, right?
Yes, exactly right. I mean,
It's
you're
just
just
another
completely
form.
immersed in what you're doing. You're
Yeah.
all using all your senses to be there, right? And the really important, again, I can talk about the spiritual aspect of mindfulness. I can talk about the neuroscience of mindfulness. There's another major part of it, which is how it decreases cortisol in the body, right?
Yeah, the stress
Yeah,
hormone.
yeah,
Yep.
cortisol is the stress hormone that the body secretes to give us a boost of energy to fight off something scary, right? So when we were all cavemen, that was very helpful, right? Fight off cave bear, really good.
However, we are no longer cave people.
All are cavemen, right? So the stress we deal with is more chronic, and more pervasive than ever before, right? So
Yes.
are we having an Alzheimer's and dementia epidemic, or are we have just been living a life of chronic stress for so long? Because cortisol impacts the white matter in the brain, decreases synaptic activity, and is contributing to the onset of dementia and Alzheimer's in our society,
Wow.
right? So the idea of anything we can do to help decrease the cortisol production as we grow older is very important for 4 or 5 major reasons. One, we don't want cognitive decline. So how we, decrease that hormone is very important. It takes 18 hours. So once you have that fight flight feeling, that rush of adrenaline in your body, it takes 18 hours for the body to harmonize. So anything we can do to help decrease as fast as
Right.
possible, very helpful. Cortisol impacts your autoimmune system to cause more inflammation in your body, arthritis, blood pressure, cardiac issues, psoriasis, anything that has to do with the autoimmune system and cardiac capacity. Chronic exposure to cortisol is not helpful to you, right? Especially inflammation in the joints,
Right.
arthritis. cardiac, like I said, but to my point, more I'm concerned about is how it impacts memory, cognitive functioning. It's a real major issue, right? So there's so much hard research on the benefit of mindfulness-based practices, meditation, yoga, expressive arts to mitigate cortisol's impact on brain functioning, right? To grow younger as we grow older is to keep our capacity to be curious in flow state and awe available to us. And this is a really gentle way. When I'm sitting on my couch or on my porch or looking outside, I'm not doing heavy physical activity, but I'm doing really important activity here to keep me
Yes.
young, right?
Yes.
And so really important that way.
All right. Well, sadly, we're almost out of time because I feel like we could talk
You
for about
started.
2 days. I know. But I do want to let everyone know that our brain health fair at SCAN, April 23rd at St. George Greek Orthodox Church, you can still, you're going to have great opportunities there to hear an excellent keynote address, as well as lots of brain activities, and a lot of what Larry is talking about today. And I do want to mention that Integrated Care Concepts is going to be facilitating some of our breakout sessions, including we're having a drum circle, drum music circle, we're having chair yoga, we're having aromatherapy, as well as many, many other things. So, all different, we're not going to scan your brain. It's nothing medical, by the way. People do ask. It's not like that. It's all about, fun and, learning about your brain and I think how to be more mindful of time and place in your life.
Yeah.
All a good thing. So, Larry Thompson of Integrated Care Concepts, thank you so much for being my guest today.
Thank you. This is wonderful.
Thank you. It was a pleasure having you. And remember out there, if it's important to you, it's important to us. I'm Andrea Tarr. We'll see you next time on Scan FYI. Bye, everyone, and bye, Larry.